This is a video lecture of systematic literature reviews, writing your purpose statement. This video lecture should augment your learning from the readings. I highly recommend that you read the PRISMA explanation and elaboration document to guide you along the process of this review. If you follow the steps and understand the logic, you will find your searches easier to conduct, your methods more systematic, your analysis more refined, and your final product to be of high quality. The explanation and elaboration document is included in this week's folder under Learning Activities and is also available on the PRISMA website. This is Ellen Volpe from NCG 701. The purpose statement is of the utmost importance in your review. It tells the reader explicitly the scope of the review so they can judge its applicability to their interest. The PRISMA guidelines aim to standardize all purpose or objective statements so that the elements of the purpose statements are consistently included in each systematic review. Writing the statement precisely at this stage of the review will help focus your team so that you are all on the right track. The PRISMA checklist refers to the purpose statement as the objective. It is included in the introduction of the manuscript and often comes after the rationale, right before the methods. The PRISMA guidelines expect that the objective is an explicit statement of the question or questions being addressed with reference to participants, interventions, comparisons, outcomes, and study designs. In other words, PICOs. You will see that not all systematic reviews have included these elements in their purpose or objective statements. You may see that some others include a PICOs element in the methods, such as study design. However, the expectation of most journals will be that all elements are included in the objective statement. P is for population. This is a precise definition of the population of a group of participants, their defining characteristics of interest, and possibly the setting. This is probably the easiest element to define. I is for intervention. The interventions or exposures under consideration in the systematic review need to be transparently reported. For example, if the reviewers answer a question regarding the association between a woman's prenatal exposure to folic acid and subsequent offspring's neural tube defects, reporting the dose, frequency, and duration of the folic acid used in studies is likely to be important for the readers to interpret the view's results and conclusions. Other interventions might include diagnostic, preventative, or therapeutic treatments, arrangements of specific processes of care, lifestyle changes, psychosocial or educational intervention, or risk factors. Now, this is often easy to define the intervention when there's an actual intervention that one is examining, say medication for nausea and vomiting. However, it can get more difficult when you're looking at a specific risk factor, say older male sexual partners in adolescent girls' sexual outcomes. C is for comparison, what the intervention or exposure is being compared to. Clearly reporting the comparator or control group interventions such as usual care, drug, or placebo is essential for readers to fully understand the selection criteria of primary studies included in the systematic review. It might be a source of heterogeneity investigators have to deal with. Comparators are often poorly described. Clearly reporting what the intervention is compared with is very important and may sometimes have implications for the inclusion of studies in a review. Many reviews compare with standard care, which is otherwise undefined, and this should be addressed by authors. In many cases, a comparison may just be the absence of an intervention, an exposure, or a risk group. O is for outcomes. The outcomes of the intervention being assessed, such as mortality, morbidity, symptoms, quality of life improvements, should be clearly specified as they are required to interpret the validity and generalizability of the systematic review's results. Finally, S is for study design. These are the types of study designs you will require in review. So again, it's part of the inclusion criteria. Some reviewers only include reports of randomized control trials, where others have broader design criteria and can include randomized trials, quasi-experimental trials, and certain types of observational studies. Still, other reviews, such as those specifically answered questions relating to harms, may include a wide variety of designs ranging from cohort studies to case reports. Whatever study designs are included in review, these should be reported. Let's look at some examples. I'm using the examples posted in week 1 as good examples of systematic literature reviews. This is a systematic literature review of incident rates of low-speed vehicle run-over accidents in children by Griffin and colleagues. The article starts off with the aim, but as you can see after the initial introduction, they provide a more specific purpose statement right before introducing the methods. As written in the article, the aim of this study is to systematically review the current literature related to the incidence of fatal or non-fatal LSVRO incidences in children 0 to 15. This review will allow the identification of the magnitude of burden from this type of injury and potentially highlight at-risk groups. So for the purpose of this review, the population is children between the ages of 0 and 15. The intervention or exposure is low-speed vehicle runover incidences. The comparison are risk groups, and they're not specific about what those groups they're looking at. The outcome is the magnitude of the burden, and the study design is not in the PICO or in the objective statement, but rather it's in the search terms under inclusion criteria. This article is the effect of oral health care education on knowledge, attitudes, and skills of care home nurses, a systematic literature review. This article reports a systematic review of the currently available literature on the effect of providing oral health care education to care home nurses on their oral health care knowledge and attitudes and their oral hygiene care skills, determined directly by assessing the potential improvements in their oral health care knowledge and attitudes and oral hygiene care skills, or determined circumstantially by assessing the potential improvements in the residents' oral health or oral hygiene. So for the PICOS model, the population are care home nurses. The intervention is an oral health care education. The comparison are control groups, which again is not specified in the purpose statement. The outcome is oral health care knowledge and attitudes and their oral hygiene care skills and residents on oral health care or oral hygiene. You can see that there are many outcomes that they are allowing into their review. Finally, the study design are intervention studies, and that's more implicit as they are looking at oral health care education intervention. This is a systematic review also in your examples. It is assessing the relationships between nurse working conditions and patient outcomes, a systematic literature review. The aim of this review was to synthesize the concepts of the working conditions in nursing and to evaluate which working conditions are associated with patient outcomes while identifying the strength of the evidence for each of the working conditions related to those patient outcomes. For this study, the PICOS is slightly harder. The population is nursing, but not well spelled out where the setting is. The intervention are working conditions. The comparison is which working conditions, again, not specified. The outcomes are patient outcomes, again, a general term. And the study design is also not specified, but specified in the methods section. And happy purpose statement writing.